Alright, so in this video we're going to look at using jQuery to manipulate the DOM and add interactive elements to a web page. So this is an alternative to doing something like just basic JavaScript for DOM manipulation. It can be especially useful if you want to use effects or have callbacks or some more complicated functionality. So we're going to go through a series of examples here, but I did just want to kind of note the general syntax before we start. So this slide notes the general syntax for DOM manipulation. So with jQuery, so this first object here is the element that you're interacting with. So for example, the button that you're clicking or the object that you're hovering over. And then this adds an event, so we do .event, and then this specifies what the event does inside of the synonymous function. This here is the object that you're going to actually change as opposed to the object you're interacting with, and then this is the action that's going to get performed. So that's kind of the general outline. Something else that you'll commonly see with jQuery is that the jQuery code will get embedded inside of this document.ready function, and effectively that just sets it up so that nothing can execute until the document is fully ready. So this outer function here opens there, closes there, is this document ready. So that waits for the document to load before anything in here can actually get executed. Okay, so this is just showing an example of using CSS selectors with jQuery. So again, this is probably the easiest way to access elements on the page. So here we're accessing an element based on a class specific, so this my button class, and here we're accessing it using the .div a class. And here we're actually using this toggle div to actually change the class that div is assigned with, which could be used to change like its styles, right? So in short, how we're going to interact with elements on the page is generally using its class or ID. So basically it's like a selector. There's different types of events. The main thing we're going to work with are click events, but there are other options. Just a few common ones. You can press certain keys and have an event happen when the key is pressed. You can have when you scroll up or down with the mouse, when the mouse enters or exits an element like a div, when you hover over something. Another one that you commonly see is context menu, and that effectively is a right click. Or another option is a double click on an object. Okay, these are some different types of effects that you can implement with jQuery. So you can hide or show content. Toggle is basically used to toggle between hiding and showing an element on the page. You can do fade in, fade out, or toggle fading. Or toggle between. So this allows you to actually have some control over how long it takes an object to fade in or fade out. These are options for sliding, for building animations, for stopping an animation early. And lastly, you can have a function that gets called after something gets executed, and that's generally termed a callback function, which we'll see some examples of. Okay, so this first example is show and hide, so let's get that running. So we're going to open that up here. We'll go ahead and get it going with the live preview. There we go. All right, so here I'm putting the jQuery inside of a script tag, and specifically I've placed that at the bottom of the head. Now sometimes people will do it at the bottom of the body or something. In this case, it should be fine either way, so you'll see this implemented differently. Another option is we could link to an external like JavaScript file and store this code there. Note it before we start though that you do need to access the jQuery library, and you basically have two options. So you can either connect to the CDN or you can store it locally. Here I've stored it locally. You can see that stored there in this jQuery folder. I also have Bootstrap loaded in there too. Oops, I guess I turned that off in a second. Cool. Okay, so this is a hide show. So let's have a look at that. So in here we have document.ready. So that's this outer component there. So that's this like outer function there. So that's the function getting initiated there. It opens there, closes. We're interacting with this button with the my button object, which we can see is actually this. Let's see here, what down? Sorry, this button here that's got the my button class associated with it. The action is going to be a click, and then this is what it gets executed with the click. So we're basically going to toggle this my header, this object that has the my header 2 class, which is this header, on and off. So, and this 1000 there is in milliseconds, so that means it's going to take a second for that to happen. So here you can see that happening. So we're basically toggling that header on and off, right? If we would, change this, it would speed it up or slow it down. So that's a simple slide or show and hide toggle there. And again, we're doing that with this toggle as opposed to show or hide, which would only do one of those two. Again, you can also do something similar with keys. Now, granted, this isn't something that people do a lot. This is just kind of a simple example. But so here I'm setting up code that it basically says this. So again, this is the code here. So once the document ready, and then this .on allows us to basically state like the action here. So we're saying when a key is pressed, then this function gets executed, and it says so e.original event.key is equal to s. Then it's going to show this object that has the div b class, and if you press H, then it's going to hide it. So that one that has this H, let's see, the one that has this div b class is div b, so that's this second one here, so it should be this. So if I click H, that disappears, and if I click S, then it reappears. So just following that logic. So that's an example one where you have some control flow built in. Okay, so the on method is kind of generic. It allows you to specify different types of operations on an event, basically. So let's have a look at on. All right, so here's the on example. So we can see here we are clicking a button. When the button is clicked, then we'll do a slow toggle. Note that this is the speed. You can specify this in milliseconds, or you can have different speeds like slow, fast, medium. And then if we instead do context menu, which is a right click, then we can do a fast toggle on and off. So here I'm doing a click. So that's our slow slide. And then now I'm doing a right click, and that's the slower one. Or sorry, the faster one. There we go. So anyway, on is a little more generic because now inside of here we can specify the different events. We've got a click event, and then we've got this other context menu, which is a right click. And you can see that set up here basically inside of like a JavaScript object notation. So the kind of value, the let's say key value setup, right? So you've got the event and then what it does, the event and then what it does. Okay, as I mentioned, you can do callbacks, which allow you to execute something once an event is finished. A lot of these different functions will accept that. So where do these callbacks go? Well, they go as a second argument there inside of this method. So again, here we have our event handler, or sorry, document ready, and then we got a click event, and then it's going to toggle this on or off. The actual callback is this second function here that's inside of this toggle method, and that's basically specifying what to do after the toggle completes. In this case, it's going to launch an alert. So if I click this, call goes off, and then we get an alert saying it was toggled off. So anyway, that's a callback. So it's basically another argument that you can provide here to this event. Okay, chaining basically allows you to chain together a series of operations. And you do that with this kind of like method notation where you have method and then another method and then another method. So let's look at chaining now. Okay, so this one, here's our different set of events. So when the document's ready, if you click the button, then this element that's assigned the class div A, which is this first div, the background color is going to change to blue, the text color is going to change to yellow, and the font size is going to change to 10 point. So we can see that there. And since this isn't a toggle, it's only doing that once. It's not really changing anything after that. The key thing here is that we're chaining these things together. So we got .css, and then changing something, .css, changing something, .css, changing something. Okay, so these are examples of get, set methods. So get methods will basically return an element's content from the DOM. So this allows you to basically get a property or something that's already there. And set allows you to actually set some new content. Then there's a couple different techniques for doing that. Text basically just does, it sets or returns the text content of a selected element. So for example, if you selected a p tag, it's just going to return the text. In contrast, HTML is going to return the text and the markup. Val and attribute are, well, val is more related to forms. We're not really dealing with that. Attribute sets or returns an attribute value. So an attribute associated with the tag. So we'll look at some examples of that now. Okay, so here's an example of a set method. Let's get that up and running here. Okay, so here's our set. So basically what we're doing here is, again, our document ready. We click the button, and then the button text is going to change to you clicked me, right? So this .text is allowing us to access and change the text in the button. So if I click this, you can see it changes. So that's, again, text. Let's say we wanted to like bold this or something. So if we try to do something like put a B tag in here, close the B tag, and then we have to wrap that in quotes. Let's see what happens there. Oops. There we go. All right, so if I click this, you see it actually prints the markup, which is not what we wanted. And that's because this .text is actually should be .html, because .text doesn't allow you to include the markup where .html does. So if I load that again, click this, now it's printing it as bolded text. So it's interpreting the markup as opposed to just assuming it's text. Okay, it's possible to add and remove elements from the DOM. So we're going to look at some examples of how to do that. So here are a few key methods. So append basically inserts content at the end of a selected element. Prepend inserts content at the beginning of a selected element. After inserts content at the end of a selected element. Before inserts content before a selected element. Remove removes it. And then empty, basically what that does is it maintains the element but dumps out all of its content. So for example, you could dump all the content out of a div but still maintain the div. All right, so here's an example of add. So let's get this up and running. Okay, let's see what this is doing. So if we click the button, then it's going to remove div A, which is this first div, or the div that has the class div A. And that disappears. Look at that again, so you can see that first div is disappearing. And that's basically all that's doing. Yeah, so this .remove is removing the entire, it's removing the entire object and its content. Now, if we had changed that to empty, it's going to maintain the div, but it's going to dump out its content. Let's try that real quick just to see what happens. There we go. So we still have the div. It just dumped out all those paragraphs that are in there. All right, let's look at, well, actually, sorry, that was actually an add, right? Actually, no, never mind. That's right. This was actually remove. I guess we didn't do add. I think I accidentally wrote over that. Let's go into remove and see what it does. Oh yeah, I guess my add got messed up because I must have wrote over top of it. This is just another example of empty while we're in here. Actually, let's go back to add and see if we can fix it, since I kind of screwed that up. All right, so let's do that. So we'll do an add. So how do we want to add? So let's go back and look at our options here. So let's do an append and see what that does. So I'm going to do append, and let's append. Let's see if it'll take a p tag, and let's see, new text. Oops. Not 100% sure if this works that way, but we will see. If not, we'll fix it, which will be hopefully a useful exercise. Okay, so click this, and it adds text. And you can see it's adding a paragraph there. If we go back, you can see my example there was basically the same. So but now here I did append as opposed, and then here I'm doing after. So I actually screwed that up. We already kind of did the remove one. This was just another example of remove. So here I'm basically emptying div A, which means it's going to stay, but remove as content, and then the div B is actually removing the content and the div itself. So basically just have the empty one there. Okay, so the last few examples here are going to look at just manipulating the styles using some of these more CSS-based methods. So we've got a couple methods here. We have add class, so add one or more classes to a selected element. We have remove class, which removes class from a selected element. Toggle classes, so toggling between two things. And CSS basically allows you to define certain style attributes. Okay, so this is showing an example of a CSS method. So let's open that example up. Okay, so you can see this in action here. So again, we got our document ready there. We click a button, and this button, we're basically changing its background color to orange. So the .css, this is the property, and then this is the value associated with it. And you can see it changed the color. This is a toggle, so this is allowing us to toggle between two classes. So let's look at that. So we want to do change toggle. There we go. So here we have that. So we have body style A, body style B. And if we go up here, we can see A and B there. So basically changing the background color. So we click this, we can see the background color changes back and forth. So we're just basically toggling the class that's being applied to this object. Actually, too, that knows this should be, I guess it's not, well, I guess that's not necessary because it knows it's a class, so you don't have to put the dot there. Okay, so that's the toggle class method. And I actually think that's all of the examples. So anyway, if you're interested in learning more about using jQuery, I recommend checking out the jQuery website and also checking out the jQuery content on W3 Schools.